Thank you for your interest in Blue Magic. Blue Magic is a romance, a novel with elements of mystery and mysticism in it. It's about Edwyna Glendower, who is a woman in her 40s living in San Francisco, and Edwyna always gets whatever she wants, except now, and what she wants is true love. It's not surprising that she can't find what she's looking for, because true love calls for a level of intimacy that she can't reach, because Edwyna has a secret, and it's a secret she's hiding both from others and from herself. So when I was thinking about this, and I was thinking about women and girls hiding secrets, I remembered way back in the dark ages, I was a junior in high school, and I wanted nothing more than to go to the senior prom. And I was part of a group of boys and girls, not particularly dating, but kind of pairing off, not pairing off. And so Bobby was a senior. I invited Bobby to my house to play Scrabble because I was the neighborhood champ. I lost. I went to the senior prom. So women hide their abilities all the time. Well-endowed women slouch to make themselves look more intelligent. Intelligent women hide their ideas to fit in. Tall women wear flats. But Edwyna's secret is a little more serious than that. When she was a child and a young woman, she believed she had magical powers. And as a matter of fact, the older she got, the more her mother believed she had magical powers. But in college, as a result of a traumatic incident involving her roommate and her first love, that is Edwyna's first love, Edwyna gave up magic. She even changed her major from theater, which had some magical elements, she thought, to accounting, which was very straightforward. So this novel is about Edwyna's search for love, and I'm going to read from the beginning of Blue Magic. Chapter 1, Sunday morning. Edwyna Glendower scoffed at all those who thought she had magical powers. Whenever anyone said how lucky she was to have her work or find her condo or even just get a parking spot, she bristled. Maybe she thought it was because she was so tall, exactly 6 feet, or because her hair, raven black and streaked with shimmering silver, hung straight down around her face and beyond her shoulders. It might have been her clothes, she surmised. She favored flowing garments in varying shades of blue, periwinkle, aquamarine, cerulean, decorated with embroidered objects which she said were not celestial symbols, although they did resemble stars and the moon. Whatever others thought, Edwyna knew she was perfectly ordinary. She was a woman who possessed the usual powers of a woman who knew her own mind and had been getting what she wanted for more than 40 years, 48, almost 49 years to be precise. Edwyna slipped out of bed and into her indigo silk dressing gown. She looked back at the 6 feet of lump remaining under the duvet. Nick was still sleeping peacefully, unaware of the sun or her movements. He gave a gentle snort, turned over, and sank more deeply under the covers. He was okay, Edwyna thought, but just okay. His carefully cropped gray hair, with the always perfectly squared off barber line at the back of his neck, his toned calves, his flat stomach, all showed he took good care of himself. That was the problem. He took good care of himself, not of her. She couldn't put her finger on what it was. When they were together, he was attentive, took her hand or arm almost in an old-fashioned way when they walked down the street, chose films she'd expressed an interest in, or made reservations at a restaurant she'd mentioned she'd like. But there was something robotic about the way he did it. She remembered reading that society hostesses kept diaries of their dinner parties, including guests and menus, so that they never served the same dish twice to any guest. Maybe he had a file in which he entered the likes and dislikes of every woman he dated. She knew she wasn't the only one he dated, But that wasn't what bothered her. It was just that he never seemed fully present. True, they made love after each of their bi-weekly dates. Making love was his saving grace. Edwyna mentally replayed the lovemaking of the previous evening. Just thinking about their lovemaking made her want him again. Edwyna had felt the pulsing down to her toes and up into her throat. The feeling returned, almost as if the sleeping Nick was awake, that he was doing what he'd done some 8 hours earlier. Edwyna allowed herself to close her eyes and remember his lovemaking moment by moment. A scene of lovemaking follows, which I cannot read aloud, although I wrote it. Edwyna slid her feet into her slippers that perfectly matched the blue of her robe. That moment of donning robe and slippers always satisfied her. She felt regal. Nick slept on. She walked quietly across the burgundy carpet of her spacious bedroom and glanced at her reflection in the gold-rimmed mirror above the bureau. She bent at the waist to free her long dark hair from its bedtime disarray, then stood and looked in the mirror again. Up already, Nick sat up and the comforter slipped down his chest. Edwyna didn't turn, but watched Nick's reflection in the mirror. "What time is it? I hope I didn't oversleep," he said. That's what she meant. How could you oversleep on a Sunday? He swung his legs over the side of the bed. "I'd better get going." She turned to face him. "Would you like some breakfast?" Edwyna didn't worry about having fresh croissants or fruit to serve because she knew the answer before she asked. "Thanks, just some coffee would be great. I'd like to get to the gym by 10 and it's after 9 already. I'll take a quick shower and be out of your hair." He never asked what she would be doing. It was outside the boundaries of their twice-monthly meetings. Shower, coffee, gone. After this, Edwyna carries on her usual Sunday routine. She reads the newspaper and she calls her parents. She has an argument with her mother, a familiar argument in which her mother says, if you only knew what you wanted, you would get it because you have magical powers and you can get whatever you want. And Edwyna again gets annoyed at her mother, and that's sort of the end of the conversation. So this is later that same afternoon, what she wants. All afternoon, Edwyna kept coming back to the conversation with her mother. While her mother had really gone overboard about the magic stuff, she did have a point when she said that Edwyna had to figure out what she wanted. Edwyna realized that all the success she'd had in life came from knowing precisely what she sought and then seeking it in an organized way. She would figure out what she wanted, put it into words, and then develop a plan of action. Edwyna knew she wanted a man, but what else? What could she say about the man she wanted? She couldn't describe his features or physique, his age or tastes. It wasn't just a man she wanted, it was a lover. No, Edwyna thought she'd had plenty of lovers and she wasn't going to reveal the number to anyone. Something more. She wanted to be someone's beloved, and she wouldn't mind if he were her beloved as well. Now, as she neared her 49th birthday, she worried that it might be too late. And if 49 came, could 50 be far behind? She knew she looked great, and she didn't feel at all different, not inside, not where it counted. And maybe the fact of almost 49 was the perfect motivation to change how she'd lived, or more precisely, how she'd loved. However she'd accomplished it, luck, as her friends said, or magic, as her mother said, or just knowing people and the world, as she herself thought, she'd had plenty of men in her life, but none of them had given her that feeling she'd read about, seen in films, heard in songs. The closest she came to recognizing what love would be was seeing a man take a woman's face between his hands as he kissed her. Even seeing those movie scenes sent chills through Edwyna's body. That feeling was enthralling, complete, different from the sexiest scene of touching, clinching, or ripping clothes from each other's body. Her lovers had done all of that. They loved her breasts, rubbed them through her clothes, cupped them in their hands, kissed her nipples, licked and sucked. Edwyna couldn't help but smile to herself as she pictured all the men she knew lined up at her breasts, taking turns with them. She had been crushed against a man's chest and pulled in with hands on her butt so they were pelvis to pelvis. And she'd been in that rip our clothes off this minute before we can really get the front door closed scenario as well. All that heat, where did it go? There must be some law of physics, exchange of matter and energy, some rule that would explain where the heat went. Edwyna didn't mean just the heat of the moment. She meant the heat that seemed to dissipate with the length of the relationship. Maybe there was a formula. The heat of a new relationship multiplied by the negative of the number of days or weeks or months of the relationship gave you the heat at the end, less than 0. If she were honest with herself, she'd have to admit that she was the one who ended a relationship as often, if not more often, than the men with whom she'd been involved. She'd never had the patience to see if there was more than met the eye. No one, not one of them, had ever put his hands on her face and just held her still in a long kiss. So Blue Magic is a romance, sometimes comic, sometimes serious, but under the surface it asks questions that many women ask themselves. Which of my own powers do I deny, and how would my life be different if I acknowledged all of myself? How will I know true love when I find it or when I see it, especially in the world of adult dating? And how vital is the place of friendship in my life? The novel is about Edwyna's search for true love, which also turns out, in a mystical way, to be her search for herself. Thank you.